Bus Bother for Rosie. Bertie was looking forward to another busy day on the roads of Sodor. He had just been cleaned and polished and was just about to leave when a loud horn echoed in the yard. Sure enough, with a sly look on his face, Bulgy, the double-deckered bus, rolled in.
"Well, what a sight for sore eyes, eh, Bertie?"
He smirked as he came to a stop. "What are you doing here?" grumbled Bertie. "I thought you were working at Mattel Farm."
"I was, as his personal vegetable bus,"
boasted Bulgy,
"but the Fat Controller has allowed me to carry passengers again, so I'm here to be reverted back to my old red coat."
Bertie rolled his eyes. "Just as long as you stay out of trouble. We don't want a repeat of last time, thank you very much." Bertie rolled away. Bulgy was looking forward to being reverted back into his old red coat. Secretly, he had missed his passengers and was happy to have a change. But Bulgy's return to service was not the only exciting piece of news on the island of Sodor. Thomas had been shunting in the yards of Knapford all morning and was very exhausted. He was just having a rest when a chirpy whistle sounded. Thomas was surprised. Pulling up next to him was a little pink tank engine with 3 domes. "Hello," the engine whistled. "My name's Rosie. Are you Thomas?" "I am," he replied. "You must be the new engine. Welcome to Sodor." "Thank you," whistled Rosie. "I'm so glad to be here. Is there anything I can do?" "There is, as a matter of fact," replied Thomas. "Could you fetch some more trucks from Sudbury for me and bring them here? I've got some coal trains to sort out." "Leave it to me," called Rosie, and she darted away quicker than she had arrived. Thomas was impressed. "It's nice to see the Fat Controllers finally bringing more tank engines to Sodor," he said to himself as he set off back to work. Rosie had collected some trucks from Sudbury and was making her way back to Knapford Yard. She was loving her new surroundings, and many of the engines whistled hello to her as they passed. Rosie then had to stop at a signal. Next to her was a small town, and one of the sights she noticed was Bulgy. He had now been repainted in his glorious red coat with his railway bus banners gleaming brightly.
"Well, well, well,"
he exclaimed when he saw Rosie.
"Now that's a sight that repulses me."
"What do you mean?" asked Rosie, sounding hurt.
"I mean your coat of paint,"
snorted Bulgy.
"I have never seen anything like you before, painted pink and looking all too pretty. I've just been repainted back into my old red coat after 3 years as a vegetable bus. The passengers love to see a splendid red sight. They wouldn't want a pretty pink engine to admire."
At that moment, Bulgy's conductor rang his bell to signal that it was time to leave.
"You won't last 5 minutes on this railway, my dear,"
Bulgy boasted.
"Now, if you excuse me, a properly useful vehicle is going to make himself known."
And before Rosie could say anything else, Bulgy had driven away. "I don't think pink is a silly colour," Rosie said to herself. When the signal dropped, Rosie puffed sadly away, feeling very hurt. Rosie had delivered the trucks to Knapford Yard and was on her way to another job. She hadn't said anything to Thomas, but he had noticed that she was upset about something. As Rosie was passing the level crossing, she noticed Bertie waiting at the gates. "Hello there," Bertie called. "You must be the new engine. Rosie, is it?" "Yes," she said sadly. "You're going to make fun of my coat of paint too, aren't you?" "Why would you say that?" Bertie asked. Rosie told him about Bulgy. "Take no notice of him. said Bertie. "Just remind him of the time he got stuck under a bridge. He's just come out of being a vegetable bus, so don't take it to heart." Rosie felt a little better. Before long, the gates opened and Bertie was on his way. "Goodbye, Rosie," he called. "Hope you enjoy yourself on Sodor." Rosie perked up and carried on her way as soon as the gates opened for her. Rosie had worked hard all day, and the Fat Controller was very impressed. Rosie was making her way back to the shed when she saw Thomas up ahead with Annie and Clarabelle. Something must be wrong, Rosie thought. She quietly sidled up alongside Thomas. She was just about to offer her services when Rosie noticed who Thomas was next to. It was Bulgy. He had broken down and Thomas had to collect his passengers. But to Rosie's surprise, Thomas was talking angrily to him. "Rosie has proven to be a really useful engine, and on her first day too," Thomas was saying to Bulgy. "I don't think her pink coat of paint is silly, and I don't know why you would say such a thing."
"Well, I didn't exactly say that,"
began Bulgy. "I know exactly what you were trying to say," huffed Thomas. "Just because you're back in service doesn't mean you have to cause trouble all over again. If Duck could have kept a watchful eye on you, so will I." Thomas let out a great cloud of steam, which made Bulgy jump. Annie and Clarabelle chuckled to themselves as Thomas puffed away. Rosie was surprised. She hadn't expected Thomas to stick up for her. She blushed to herself, having found some new respect for the little tank engine. A few days later, James was waiting for a delivery at the quarry when Thomas fussed in with his new trucks. He was looking rather annoyed. "What's the matter with you?" asked James. "It's that Rosie," grumbled Thomas. "She won't leave me alone." "The new pink engine?" asked James. "Why, what's she done?" "She keeps whistling like I do," grumbled Thomas. "She also wheeshes her steam like I do, and whenever she takes out coaches she shouts, 'Come along,' like I do with Annie and Clarabelle. I don't understand it." "I think she likes you," said James. "I can't imagine why," huffed Thomas. "Well, you did stand up to Bulgy for her," said James. "Perhaps that's why. She must have heard it or something." James then puffed away, laughing quietly to himself. Thomas grumbled bitterly as his trucks were loaded with stone. Little did he know he would meet Rosie again whilst delivering presents to a young girl at High Farm. But that's a story you all might know already.